we're gonna go across the pond for Wayne Clasper. He's gonna do a demo for us tonight.
All right.
And considering it's already pushing 1 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock. What time is it in England right now, Wayne?
It's coming up midnight.
Coming up on midnight.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Well, and it's coming up on the top of the hour, and so typically for the mates over in UK or Ireland or Northern Ireland, might as well get Scotland in there too and Wales. We'll try to always try to get them on at the top of the hour in case they want to turn in and go Betty by. And then we'll do gallery. We'll run through gallery at the conclusion of the demo. So Wayne, if you're ready to start your demo, I can
Yeah, I'm ready.
spotlight you and span,
Yeah.
Wayne
span everything over
needs
for you.
Wayne needs his beauty sleep.
Right. Spotlighted.
Sorry,
I
mate.
don't know. I think he looks pretty good the way he is.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
Wayne, I'm gonna mute everybody.
okay.
So folks, and so after I mute everybody, you'll have to unmute yourself. But everybody,
Fine.
this is Wayne's demo. Wayne's going to tell us how he does it, how he turns it, and then he'll take questions and comments after his demo is over. So without further ado, let's go to Wayne, muting everybody now, and unmute yourself, Wayne.
There we go. I'm feeling a bit weak tonight. I've had a shave.
Uh-oh, you cut the beard, huh?
Yeah. Right, what I'm going to do tonight is a potpourri pot. Is that looking okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Grand. It's a potpourri pot. This is a piece of beech. It's fairly plain. I'm probably not going to colour it tonight though. So I'm going to put a tenon on one end, flip it round, put it into the chuck. Then I'm going to shape it. What I'm not using tonight is one of the metal insert lids. I'm going to use a Dremel and a jig that I've made to actually put some cuts into the piece, and also a small drill to drill some small holes in as well. So what I'll do, I'll just get this turned down to round. Oh, hang on. Got my mask on. Sorry about that. For some reason, this isn't tightening up properly. Yeah, that's better. There we go. Right, so I'll just get a tenon put on one end. Just clean this off first. There we are. Now what I'm going to do on the tenon is use a very thin parting tool just to put a groove into the tenon. Now what I haven't done is put a dovetail on this. Oh, knocked the camera, sorry about that. What I haven't done is put a dovetail on this, and I'll explain why when I turn it round. Now I use an Axminster chuck with, these are what's called the C jaws on the Axminster chuck. And these jaws will, they actually take a small plate for the screw chuck. This is the small screw that's in at the moment. And what that does is just sit inside the jaws. And when the jaws lock down, the jaws have actually got a lip on that go into a groove to hold that in place properly. So what I do is put a groove into the tenon, and that holds that very, very securely. Use all of the points on the chuck to tighten it down.
Wayne, is it also screwed into the wood?
No, it's not screwed into the wood. I keep on hitting the camera with my mask. Sorry about that. So all I've done, it's a straight tenon because the screw chuck is actually straight. It's not on a dovetail. So I always have a straight tenon when I use these jaws. I always put a groove in. And once I get this parted off, once it's finished, and open the jaws up to take the wee piece out that's left, you'll actually see how tight it gets held. I'm just going to bring the tailstock up again, just while I shape the lid. This is going to be the lid body. It might have a small stem on as well. But I'll just get my spindle gouge and just start doing some shaping on this. What I'll do is put my small tool rest on. Move that in. Right, so I've sort of identified there how big the lid is going to be. And I'll just start getting a little bit shape into the body and also into the lid. This is where I'm going to part the lid off. Now you could use a skew chisel to do these cuts. Oops. Just move the tool rest. We'll just take this down to a point. And that's it. Back off the tailstock. And just give that a final little cut. There we go. And what I'll do now is make a parting cut just for where I'm going to part off the lid. Now I think that should be big enough for the hole to go into. Thin parting tool. Right, I'm going to use a thin parting tool. Now, the parting tool I was using there is a diamond shape, so it's wider in the middle than at the top and bottom edge, so it automatically gives clearance. The one I'm using now, the thin one I'm using now, is parallel, so you've actually got to make a couple of cuts so that the parting tool doesn't bind. And I'm just taking a little bit off either side, so the parting tool still has room to get all the way down. And that's cleaned off. I'll just clean off the wee nubbity nub, as I call it, in the center with my skew chisel. And then what I'll do with this, once the piece is finished, maybe not tonight, but what I'll do is put a sanding pad into my Jacob's chuck and just get that nicely sanded off so it's nice and clean. Oh, that's another thing. If you are going to use a Jacob's chuck in the headstock, what I've actually got, I don't know if you can Jacob's chuck, and the end is hollow and it's threaded. So when I use it in the headstock and I don't have any tailstock pressure up there, I always use a drawbar as well. So the drawbar goes through the headstock and it actually screws onto the drill, and it's got a big washer and a screw on there so it can get tightened up, and that holds the Jacob's chuck in place when it's in the headstock. Leave that out for later. Right, so I'll put a little bit of shape into the body of the box now. And decide how deep the box is going to be. It's just going to be a fairly basic shape. And I'll leave the bulk of this wood there just to give a bit of strength to it while it's getting hollowed out. So move the tool rest out of the way. Take the elbow stabber out. What I will do, because I am going to drill this, what I will do is just with my spindle gouge, I'll not change camera for this. I'm just going to come across just to clean that off. So the drill has got somewhere to go into. Now I'm going to be using it's a sawtooth bit like a Forstner, with an extension on. And I'm just going to do a quick eye measurement on that. And that'll go, I've got the Allen screw there. So it's going to just about there, where the Allen screw is. I'm going to turn the speed down for this. I usually, when I'm using this drill, I usually go at around about 500. That's at about 520. So I'm going to where the Allen screw is. And you always, as well, when you're doing drilling like this, is to go in a little bit at a time and back it back out. I'll change camera for this. There you are. Just to make sure it keeps everything clean, so you don't get any shavings actually blocking the hole up. I'm just going to move that forward. Just taking the quill back again. And that's just about where I want it. We'll get rid of that now. So what we're going to do now is start hollowing out so I can get the lid to fit. And I'm going to start hollowing out with my spindle gouge. So get the tailstock out of the way. Turn the speed up. That's me turning just over 1,000 revs now. This is usually the bit that takes a little bit of time because you've got to just creep up on the opening. A little bit more. See, this is going to be one of these, just one more cut. Then it turns into a French fit.
Never fail. We're all eating our popcorn. I do have a poll going on this, by the way.
That is just about there. What I'm looking for is something just in between a wood turner's fit and a French fit. Now, if I push that in now, it will go in and that will be a real wood turner's fit. I probably wouldn't get it back off again. It's got a pop. There we are. That's what I'm after. So that's a nice fit. And what I can actually do now, seeing as how I forgot to do this before I parted it off, I can get the top sanded. Now I'm just starting off with 120 grit. and just going to 220. Now, it would obviously take a lot more time on the sanding than what I'm doing now. If I was doing this one for sale. There we are. Right, I'll just stick some sand and sealer on that. Use a piece of paper towel just to take off the excess. Now I'm just going to use a little abrasive paste. Turn the speed down again. When I'm using abrasive paste, I usually start at around about 250. And if I am using abrasive paste, I only sand to 240. In this, I would actually be sanding to 400. If I was using any paints, stains or dyes on this, I'd sand to 400 as a minimum. And I probably wouldn't use abrasive paste, although you can still colour once you've used abrasive paste. What you've got to do is make sure that any residue of the abrasive paste is off the wood once it's done its job. And the best way to do that is to use what we call methylated spirits, and I think what you guys across in the States call denatured alcohol. And if you give it a good rub over, once the abrasive paste has worked, I'm just going to turn the speed up. If you give it a good rub over with denatured alcohol, methylated spirits, that'll clean off any residue, which means you can colour once the sanding is done. The whole reason for using abrasive paste is that you're not sanding over 240. And it's usually when you get onto the finer grits, you know, the 400, 600, 800s, that's where you start getting problems with the very, very fine particles of dust. So you're not actually getting any of that dust in the atmosphere if you're using an abrasive paste. Now what I'm using now is microcrystalline wax over the top of the abrasive paste. The abrasive paste has worked. I checked the piece of paper I was using and it was coming away clean. So that shows that the abrasive paste has worked once the paper comes away clean. So that's microcrystalline wax. It's one of my favorite waxes because it's very tough and it doesn't really show up fingerprints, thumbprints, things like this. Change camera again. Now, I don't know if you can see, but the body and the top, there's a little step there, which I want to get rid of. I want to have both of them around about the same size if I can. So I'm just going to take that in a bit. Using very light cuts, just so I can get them around about the same size. Take the lid off, finish that cut, and that should be them sized up. And now I can carry on with the hollowing out. So I'm just going to clean this face off a bit. Just like that. Turn the speed up again. And carry on hollowing. I'll change now to a hollowing tool. This is a carbide tipped hollowing tool, and it's a straight one. I'm not using the swan neck at the moment. That's me down at the bottom there. Still quite thick. I'll just use my small, should I use that one? I'll just use this swan neck just to get under the shoulder. Now, the secret of using a swan neck, change camera again, is that you want to keep the straight part of the bar on the tool rest. Don't put the swan neck on the tool rest because you've got a tendency for it to twist. So if you start off and you keep the straight part of the bar, and ideally a tool like this probably should be just used for getting in and around the shoulder. And that's all I'm going to use it for, just coming in here. If you just bear with me a minute, I just need to turn this tip around. The screw doesn't want to unscrew, so I'll use a different tool. Just want to go a little bit more on the side. Right, so what I was doing there was just taking the little nub just off the bottom. Right, I'm just going to give just around here a sand. Just to make sure that's nice and clean. Now, what I would use if I was going to sand the inside tonight, there's a couple of methods I can use, and I'll probably not be able to find either of them. Nope, doesn't really matter. What I have got a piece of wood that's just got a split in one end that I just put some abrasive paper into so I can sand the inside, or I have got an inertia sander that, as long as the opening is big enough, you'll be able to get inside to sand. I'm just going to change camera again, and I'm going to set up a couple of jigs. The first jig I've got is my indexing jig. This is something that I've just made up out of a couple of pieces of wood and a bolt and nut. Now, the good thing about this chuck that I use, again, this is one of the original Axminster SK114 chucks, and it's got a backing plate on that's got indexing slots. The newer versions don't have that, and I don't know why they changed it, but they did. So all I do is put that in place, tighten up the nut like that, and that's me set for indexing. So the outer ring on the indexing is 24, and there's also an inner one as well with 36. Now, what I am going to do is unplug the lathe, because whenever I do anything like this, chances are I'll forget what I'm doing and turn the lathe on, which doesn't really help. Right, so the second jig I've got is I've got a dowel which fits into my tool post. I've got a couple of pieces of plywood. I've got a hinge on the back, and I've just used some hose clips to fasten my Dremel into. Obviously, other rotary tools will work just as well. And I've got a wood cutting slot maker, if you like, on the Dremel. So what I'll do is, it's sometimes a bit fiddly to set up. And that should work just nicely there. I'll tighten up the tool post. And I think we'll go for 12 slots on this. I'm going to turn that on, bring it down, That's me all the way around with the slots. But just to give it a bit more decoration on here, the other thing I've got is just, again, it's a piece of dowel. I think I made this one out of elm. So what I'm going to do, that slots into the tool rest. And I'm just going to check for getting the center height. I'll take it up to my tailstock just to check getting the center height. Sorry, this bit's out of camera shot. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
That's about there. So I'll just bring that round. So I've got what I've got in here. Let's just mark that with a Sharpie so I know where to put it back into. So what I've done with this, like I said, it's an inch diameter, which fits my tool post. And I've got a series of holes drilled in this for different drill sizes. I'll just pop that back in. I'm going to do and I'm going to set that up around about there. Yeah, that should be okay. So my favorite tool is coming out now. That's drilly. I have a friend who named all of my tools.
Yeah, but I hear Drilly is up for sale.
Drilly had his last live on my channel tonight, Ruby. He is going to make an appearance at the Harrogate show at the weekend. And then I might auction him off next Wednesday. Right, so I've got the indexing in. I've got the hole lined up. And I'm just going to go and drill holes around. I'll just do one set. Nearly done. No, put that back. I missed one. There we go. Take the index and jig off, if I can get that nut undone. That's it. Tool rest back on, and I'll just finish off the bottom. Plug the lathe back in. I'm just going to put a mark on here where I'm going to part off. Just making this foot a little bit smaller. Even smaller. So I'll just quickly sand this. And again, quickly go through the same process as I went through before. Now I'll get it parted off. Now, the reason I start putting the parting line in before I actually do any proper finishing on this is because when I come to part off, the cut is already started and it's already been sanded. So it shouldn't leave any furry bits. Turn that speed up a bit. And again, I'll just take that little nub off and I'll do the same on the bottom of this as what I do on the top and get this sanded with a sanding pad. So I'll explain what I was talking about with the with these jaws. So open the jaws up, and that piece of wood basically takes a bit to get loose because it's being gripped in the right in the groove of that tenon. Pop the lid on, see if I can line the grain up. The grain is quite bland on this, so it might not line up. No, there it is. Right, I'm just putting some of this stuff away and then I'll change camera. And there I am, and there you are. You can see through the slots have gone all the way through to the inside. What I would usually do if this was going to be a finished piece rather than a demo piece, I'd do the holes around the bottom as well. But this is doing a potpourri pot without having to buy the metal inserts for the lid. And you
Muted.
Great demo.
Oh,
We
sorry.
lost that last bit, Wayne. You went muted.
Right, sorry about that. Can you
Okay.
hear me
Got
now?
you now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That was
right.
great. Great demo,
Right.
Wayne.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I was saying right at the end is that, you know, you can get your potpourri pot, the smell still comes out through the slots and the holes, but you don't have to go to the expense of buying the metal lids, inserts, and you can do different shapes and things like this. The photograph that I sent Dane is actually quite a long stem, which I think I did on a live last year sometime, I think.
Well, that's cool.
Thank you.
Well done.
I'll work on maybe
Wayne?
making some of those jigs.
That was one of the best, Wayne. That was one of the best.
Thank you.
No,
Wayne,
they
the
do
jig-
like
the
Wayne, that
jigs-
was great.
the
Like
jigs-
like
the Dremel
No,
jig
it's
is
like, you know-
is got
Hey,
it
Wayne?
given a lot of fuel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
share
I
pictures of the
used to,
Dremel jig, please. In the group, in the Facebook page.
all right, okay, will do. Now, but see, I used to have, there used to be a company across here called Poolwood, and they made quite a big lathe. It was called the Poolwood 2840, and I got a blacksmith to make me one of those jigs, actually for fitting a drill into, for doing the same thing. Many years ago, but it was not as safe as the Dremel. I basically had a very small circular saw blade together with a nut and bolt, and that fitted into the
Right.
drill. So it's a
good.
bit safer with the Dremel.
Right? Yeah, indeed. So, rest of the group, if anybody else has any other questions they'd like to ask
Yes,
Wayne
I have.
on his jigs and whatnot, and if so, let's go one at a time and not trample over each other when somebody's trying to speak.
Hello.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes. That jig that you use for the Dremel, can you show that off the machine?
Off the machine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that. Right, so what it is you've got the dowel for the tool post. I have a height thing on this so I can actually put it at
Top
different
collar.
heights. Yeah, collar. I can put it at different heights. It's the top is basically just 2 bits of plywood, the same shape. It's
Yeah.
got a hinge on the back, so it just hinges up and down. And the Dremel is fastened in. This is a cordless Dremel, but it's fastened in with hose clips. That's all it's fastened in there with, and it's quite sturdy.
Okay. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Very good. Thank you.